Why do they call it a love triangle? It's an interesting phrase because it makes it seem like all parties are in love with each other when in reality, only one point is receiving love from the other two. More like a love arrow than a triangle. Hello and welcome to another Spreadsheets and Swords. Today we're talking about the fate of England and the war arrow surrounding that conflict. For all the early Bruce supporters, you know the first Spreadsheets and Swords was about the fate of England. It's time to revisit this topic with the Northern Lords DLC. Fate of England is a scenario that starts in 1066 in Crusader Kings where three belligerents are competing for the English crown. Technically, there are 5 claimants to the throne, but the Danes and Scots never make a play for it. Let's meet our 3 challengers today. We have Harold Godwin, current King of England and man stuck between a Norwegian and a Norman. Harold Yngling, no relation, King of Norway and all-around biggest loser in this situation. Lastly, we have Duke William of Normandy, aka history's protagonist. Here's the data from the first time we observed this scenario 50 times. The first chart is showing us the winner of each of the 50 invasions, Godwin with 7, Yngling with 10, and Normandy with 33. The following is a chart showing how often Godwin was able to defeat one of his 2 opponents. As you can see, it only came about 34% of the time, or 17 times. 10 of those were solely against Yngling. This graph kind of reminds me of that middle school earth mantle diagram that you had to make for science class. Next, we have a graph that depicts the length of the conflict. On average, it took about 7 years to resolve the conflict. The last graph depicts if they being Yngling and Normandy, took it first where they were able to hold on to it. Now let's add in that new data set so we can see what changed. With the DLC, Normandy becomes the biggest winner. Yngling gets completely shut out and Godwin scrapes by with 2 wins. We'll get into my thoughts of why this is happening in a bit. Next, the length of conflict. The new dataset is in red. Overall, the fate of England scenario is shorter, 1.5 years shorter on average. After that, we have whether or not Godwin is winning at least one of the wars, which he is about 30 times compared to 17 previously. Then our final graph is kind of a moot point because Yngling never won one. So now let's answer why Normandy's coming out on top more than before and why Yngling is not showing up at all. Let's look at everybody's starting forces to get an idea. Every time you load the game, these numbers are going to be slightly different, but here's an estimate. Godwin has about 6,500 plus troops, Normandy has about 5,900 troops, and Yngling has about 5,100 troops. If Godwin is fighting just one of these enemies, he will win 9 times out of 10, but he needs to fight off both of them at the same time. What I witnessed almost every single time was Godwin took his force north and focused the majority of his time on Yngling, just leaving the lands in the south to become inundated with Normans, which is why Yngling isn't winning England as much as he was before, and why you see an increase in Godwin winning at least one of his wars. The other mistake Godwin is making is that he doesn't take any allies, which the other 2 are. I'm unsure if there's something in the code that's preventing him from doing this, because as a player you can take allies all day. What makes Normandy so successful is the quality of his troops and the number of his allies he's taking. He took, on average, 2 to 3 allies each attempt, and he has more men-at-arms units compared to the other 2 belligerents. This is what is propelling him to be so much better than his previous self. In conclusion, with the DLC of Northern Lords, Normandy is outproducing the other 2 because he has a better quality force and he's taking more allies than the other 2. It also helps that Godwin is sapping most of his strength on Yngling before facing Normandy. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching the Spreadsheets and Swords. If you enjoyed this video, please comment and subscribe. Let me know what other topics you'd like to see me cover in this segment, and as always, have a good rest of your day.